The power of a wise woman. Good morning, SL, afternoon, evening, everyone. I want to start with a question. Have you ever felt exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally by certain people in your life? You know, the ones who leave you questioning your own worth, doubting your instincts, feeling small in your own story. Here's what I've learned. A wise woman does not slam doors. She does not make laugh exits. She does not demand people change. No, a wise woman silently steps away from what no longer serves her. She does this with clarity, grace, and the deep understanding that her energy is sacred. A wise woman understands that her energy is her most valuable asset, more precious than money, more irreplaceable than time. It is the force that fuels her passions, nurtures relationships, and sustains her well-being. Because of this, she does not give it away freely or recklessly. Instead, she guards it with intention, discernment, self-respect. She has learned that not every person's situation or conversation is worth her mental, emotional, or spiritual investment. She no longer wastes energy on endless explanations to people committed to misunderstanding her, trying to fix relationships that only survive if she does all the work, over giving to those who take and never reciprocate, carrying the weight of others' problems when they refuse to take responsibility, defending herself against false narratives or gossip. A wise woman knows that energy is a currency and she spends it wisely. She does not waste time in spaces that deplete her, nor does she engage with people who leave her feeling drained or diminished. Instead, she invests in what nourishes her soul, fuels her growth, and aligns with her purpose. This means she is mindful of the conversation she entertains, the relationship she nurtures, and the commitment she takes on. She understands that just because she can help does not mean she has to. Just because she cares does not mean she must carry every burden. Just because someone expects her energy does not mean she is obligated to give it. She has learned she values her energy, that self-sacrifice should never be her default setting, that taking care of herself is not selfish, it is essential. She knows that when she preserves her energy, she shows up as her best self for the things and people that truly matter. Most importantly, a wise woman values her energy not just in moments of exhaustion, but as a daily act of self-respect. She listens to her intuition, protects her peace, and moves through life knowing that her power lies not in how much she gives, but in how wisely she chooses to give. A wise woman understands that boundaries are not walls meant to keep people out. They are gates that allow her to decide who gets access to her life and on what terms. They are acts of self-respect, not selfishness. They are silent, yet they speak volumes about how she values herself. She does not set boundaries to punish or control others. She sets them to protect her peace, her time, and her emotional well-being. She knows that when she lacks boundaries, she invites disrespect, exhaustion, and resentment into her life, and so she stands firm not through loud confrontations but through quiet, consistent action. A wise woman does not need to announce her boundaries, she simply enforces them. She does not waste time arguing with those who refuse to respect them. Instead, she lets her actions send the message. If someone constantly disrespects her, she withdraws access. If someone drains her energy, she limits interaction. If someone takes her kindness for granted, she stops overextending. If someone oversteps, she does not justify, she simply reinforces. She knows that not everyone will like her boundaries, and that's okay. Some will call her difficult, some will accuse her of being selfish or cold, but she understands that people who are upset by her boundaries are often the ones who benefited from her lack of them. What she will not do is explain herself over and over again. A wise woman does not beg for her boundaries to be honored. She does not waste time trying to convince others that she has the right to protect her space. She does not argue with those who challenge her. She simply stands firm, walks away when necessary, lets her silence be the answer. And in this silent enforcement of boundaries, she finds her power, she reclaims her energy, she builds relationships based on mutual respect, not obligation or guilt. A wise woman understands that access to her is a privilege, not a right. She is not available to just anyone at any time, under any circumstances. She is intentional about who gets her time, her energy, her emotional space, because she knows that the people she surrounds herself with will shape her peace, her mindset, and her overall well-being. She has learned that not everyone comes into her life with good intentions. Some people seek her out not because they value her, because they value what she can do for them. Some people only show up when they need something but disappear when she is. The boundaries are silent but powerful. One in need, others linger, not to celebrate her but to compete with her, criticize her, or quietly hope for her downfall. A wise woman recognizes these patterns, and instead of trying to change people, she changes access. She does not waste energy convincing people to value her. She does not beg for reciprocity. She does not entertain one-sided relationships where she is always the giver, never the receiver. She protects her space by filtering who gets her time. She no longer overcommits or overextends for those who only take. Being selective with her inner circle, she surrounds herself with people who uplift, support, respect her, distancing herself from negativity. She does not engage with gossip, manipulation, or toxic cycles, listening to actions, not just words. She pays attention to how people treat her, not just what they say. This doesn't mean she is cold, unkind. It means she has learned the difference between being a good person and being too accessible to the wrong people. She understands that not everyone who claps for her is happy for her. Not everyone who calls her a friend deserves a place in her life. A wise woman does not make dramatic exits. She does not argue, explain, or seek validation for her decisions. She simply steps back, reduces access, and lets go with grace. She trusts that those who truly belong in her life will never make her feel like she has to fight for a place in theirs. A wise woman knows that silence is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it is one of the most powerful tools she possesses. She does not feel the need to respond to every insult, engage in every argument, explain herself to those who are committed to misunderstanding her. Instead, she chooses silence as an act of strength, self-respect, and control. Society often teaches women that they must be loud to be heard, that they must constantly defend themselves, prove their worth, and fight every battle that comes their way. But a wise woman moves differently. She knows that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every response is necessary. She refuses to be baited into conflicts that drain her energy. She does not waste her words on people who do not value them. Her silence speaks louder than words. A wise woman's silence is not passive, it is intentional. It is the silence of a woman who understands her worth, refuses to engage in meaningless chaos. Instead of explaining herself over and over again, she lets her actions speak. When someone disrespects her, she does not argue, she removes herself. When someone spreads rumors, she does not retaliate, she lets the truth reveal itself in time. When someone expects a reaction, she does not give them the satisfaction, she stays in control. When life feels overwhelming, she does not panic, she retreats, reflects, and regains her power. She knows that not every situation requires a response. Sometimes the most powerful thing she can do is say nothing, and not everyone deserves access to her, all because silence makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to sit with their own actions, their own words, and their own consequences. Silence protects her peace. A wise woman values her peace more than the temporary satisfaction of winning an argument. She knows that engaging in unnecessary drama only steals her joy, wastes her energy, and gives power to people who don't deserve it. Her silence is not an admission of defeat. It is a sign that she is choosing herself over the chaos. It is her way of saying, I am not available for negativity. I refuse to lower myself to this level. I do not need validation from people who don't truly see me. She knows when to speak and when to be still. Silence is not about being passive or weak. It is about knowing when to speak and when to hold back. She speaks when it is necessary, when it is meaningful, when it adds value, but she does not waste her voice on things that do not serve her. She does not need to announce her boundaries. She enforces them. Silence. She does not need to prove her worth. Her presence speaks for itself. She does not need to convince anyone of her truth. Time and her actions will do that for her. The power of walking away in silence. A wise woman understands that sometimes the loudest statement she can make is her absence. She does not chase. She does not beg. She does not try to force anyone to see her value. She simply removes her energy from spaces where she is not valued, and in doing so, she sends the clearest message possible. I am worth more than this. A wise woman understands that peace is not just a feeling, it is a decision. It is a choice she makes every single day. One of the most powerful full choices she has ever made is choosing a peace over pleasing. For too long, women have been conditioned to believe that their worth is tied to how much they do for others. They are taught to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to sacrifice their own needs for the comfort of those around them. But a wise woman knows that constant people-pleasing is a direct path to exhaustion, resentment, and self-abandonment. She has learned, sometimes the hard way, that the more she tries to keep everyone else happy, the more she loses herself. The more she says yes when she means no, the more her soul suffers. The more she prioritizes the needs, feelings, expectations of others, the more her own desires fade into the background. But no more she releases the need to be liked. A wise woman understands that not everyone will like her. That's okay. She no longer seeks approval at the expense of her own well-being. She no longer bends over backward to make sure everyone is comfortable. While she is left emotionally depleted, she is done sacrificing her peace to meet unrealistic expectations. She realizes that she is not responsible for how others perceive her. Their opinions are their business, not hers. She does not owe anyone an explanation for choosing herself. Her boundaries do not need. Silence is not weakness. It's strength. Justification, disappointing others, is sometimes necessary. Their discomfort does not mean she is wrong. It means she's prioritizing her needs. She protects her mental and emotional well-being. A wise woman knows that peace is priceless. She values inner calm more than the fleeting satisfaction of making others happy. She no longer agrees to things that drain her just to avoid disappointing someone. She no longer forces herself to engage in conversations that leave her feeling heavy. She no longer shrinks herself to fit spaces that do not honor her. Instead, she chooses rest over overextending, authenticity over approval, stillness over unnecessary drama. Relationships that feel mutual, not one-sided. She understands that saying no is not a rejection, it is an act of self-care. The right people will respect her for it. She lets go of guilt. One of the hardest lessons a wise woman learns is how to say no without guilt. Society has taught her that putting herself first is selfish. She now understands that it is necessary. She realizes that if she continues to give beyond her limits, she will eventually have nothing left, not for others, and certainly not for herself. She is no longer guilt-tripped into saying yes. She no longer feels bad for canceling plans when she needs rest. She no longer apologizes for doing what is best for her because she knows this. She is allowed to choose herself without feeling like she is betraying others. She walks away from chaos and drama. A wise woman is no longer available for negativity, manipulation, or toxic cycles. She does not argue for the sake of arguing. She does not entertain relationships that leave her feeling unseen or unappreciated. She does not participate in drama that serves no purpose other than to steal her peace. Instead, she walks away quietly, no explanations, no warnings, just a firm decision to protect her energy. In doing so, she makes it clear she is not here to prove her worth. She's not here to please everyone. She is here to live fully on unapologetically. In alignment with her truth, her peace is her power at the end of the day. A wise woman understands that peace is not something she finds, it is something she creates. It is something she protects. It is something she chooses over and over again. She knows that her life is too valuable, her energy too precious, and her heart too full of potential to be wasted on pleasing people who will never be satisfied. So she releases the need to be everything to everyone. She releases the fear of being misunderstood. She releases the weight of unrealistic expectations because she understands that true freedom comes when she stops living for others and starts living for herself. A wise woman understands that not everything is meant to last, not every relationship, not every friendship, not every situation. Something things come into her life to teach her, to grow her. She treats her mightiest peace over pleasing, then they are meant to end. She does not hold on to what is no longer serving her. She does not beg for people to stay. She does not cling to things that drain her. Instead, she walks away. But when she walks away, she does so with grace, not bitterness. She has learned that bitterness is a heavy burden to carry, that resentment does not heal wounds, it deepens them, that anger, no matter how justified, will only poison her own heart if she lets it so. She chooses differently. She chooses peace over revenge, closure over chaos, and healing over hate. She accepts that some chapters must close. A wise woman knows that every goodbye is a redirection. She no longer forces things that feel forced. She no longer tries to revive connections that have already died. She understands that people will change, relationships will shift, and life will not always go the way she planned. And when that happens, she does not fight to hold on. She lets go. If a friendship no longer feels genuine, she releases it without resentment. If a romantic relationship no longer brings her joy, she leaves without looking back. If a workplace no longer aligns with her values, she moves forward without regret. She does not stay in places where she is not valued. She does not chase people who do not choose her. She does not waste time seeking explanations from those who cannot give them. She simply accepts that what is meant for her will never require her to beg, suffer, or shrink herself. She leaves without drama. A wise woman knows that not every departure needs an announcement. She does not create scenes, argue, try to prove a point on her way out. She does not seek revenge or go out of her way to make others feel the pain she felt. Instead, she lets her absence do the talking. She does not throw accusation. She lets the truth reveal itself in time. She does not demand apologies. She finds closure within herself. She does not seek to hurt those who hurt her. She trusts that life will handle what she does not need to. She understands that true strength lies not in how loudly she leaves, but in how peacefully she moves on. She forgives, but she does not forget. Walking away with grace does not mean she tolerates disrespect, does not mean she allows herself to be mistreated. It does not mean she forgets the lesson she has learned. It simply means she chooses freedom over resentment. She chooses to forgive not because they deserve it, but because she deserves peace. She refuses to let the pain of the past define her future. She refuses to allow old wounds to keep her from stepping into the fullness of her potential. She forgives, but she does not return to what broke her. She releases, but she does not lower her standards. She learns, but she does not repeat the same mistakes. She trusts that what's ahead is better than what she left behind. A wise woman knows that walking away is not a loss. It is a gain. It is the beginning of something new, something better, something aligned with her growth and happiness. She does not mourn what she left behind for too long. Instead, she focuses on what's next. She trusts that every ending is a doorway to a new beginning. She trusts. She walks away with grace. not bitterness, that letting go makes space for greater things. She trusts that she is always being guided toward what is truly meant for her. Her absence speaks louder than her words. At the end of the day, she does not need to prove anything to anyone. The way she carries herself, the way she moves forward without bitterness, without drama, without looking back, sends the clearest message of all. She does not seek revenge. She does not justify her departure. She does not explain her worth. She simply walks away gracefully, powerfully, without regret. A wise woman does not wait for the world to tell her she is valuable. She already knows it. She does not measure her worth by how others treat her, how many people approve of her, or how much she is needed by others. She defines her own worth. She stands by it unapologetically. She was not always this way. There was a time when she questioned herself, when she sought validation in places that only left her feeling empty. She tried to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. She tried to earn love that should have been freely given, but then she realized that her worth is not up for negotiation. Now she moves differently. She does not beg for respect. She does not chase people who do not value her. She does not lower her standards to make others comfortable. Instead, she stands firm in who she is, what she deserves, what she will no longer tolerate. She does not settle for less than she deserves. A wise woman knows that her time, energy, and love are precious. She will not pour into people who only take. She will not accept breadcrumbs when she deserves the whole meal. She will not remain in spaces that do not see her value in love. She does not settle for someone who only half chooses her. If a person cannot fully show up, she lets them go. In friendships, she does not entertain one-sided relationships. If someone only reaches out when they need something, she creates distance. In work, she does not accept being undervalued. She knows her skills and contributions are worth more than being overworked and underappreciated. She has learned that the way she allows others to treat her is a direct reflection of how she values herself, and because she values herself deeply, she accepts nothing less than respect, reciprocity, and genuine effort. She does not beg for what should be freely given. A wise woman knows that anything she has to beg for is not truly meant for her. She does not plead for attention, love, or respect. She does not force people to see her worth. Instead, she walks away from anything that requires her to prove what should be obvious. She no longer over-explains her boundaries. She no longer tolerates being taken for granted. She no longer accepts half-hearted efforts from people who claim to care. She understands that if someone truly values her, they will show it, not with empty words, but with consistent action. She stands tall, even when others try to diminish her. A wise woman knows that when she stands in her, she knows her worth and stands by worth. Some people will be intimidated. Some will call her too much, too strong, or too independent. Some will try to belittle her confidence because they are not used to a woman who refuses to shrink. But she does not shrink. She does not make herself smaller to make others comfortable. She does not apologize for knowing her worth. She understands that a woman who fully embraces her worth is a powerful force, one that not everyone is ready to handle. But that is not her problem. She was not made to be palatable for others. She was made to be whole, confident, and completely herself. She chooses herself, even when it's hard. Knowing her worth does not mean life is always easy. There will be moments of doubt, moments of loneliness, moments where she wonders if she made the right decision by walking away from what no longer served her. But even in those moments, she stands firm. She reminds herself of everything she has overcome. She knows that choosing herself, even when it's painful, is always the right choice, because every time she chooses herself, she reinforces the truth. She is enough as she is. She is deserving of love, respect, and care. She does not have to prove herself to anyone. She moves through life with confidence and grace. At the end of the day, a wise woman does not need validation from the outside world. She validates herself. She walks through life with confidence, knowing that she is worthy, not because someone else says so, because she believes that she does not lower herself for others. She does not wait for permission to shine. She does not question her value. She knows her worth, and she stands by it. Always. A wise woman is not defined by how much she gives, how much she endures, or how well she pleases others. She is defined by how well she honors herself. She has learned, sometimes through heartbreak, sometimes through silence, sometimes through walking away, that her peace, her energy, her worth are not up for negotiation. She values her energy and spends it wisely, never allowing herself to be drained by people who do not pour back into her. She sets boundaries not to push people away, but to protect herself from those who do not respect her. She understands that not everyone deserves access to her, and she is intentional about where she invests her time and love. She knows that silence is not weakness. It is a sign of wisdom, discipline, and strength. She no longer seeks to please everyone because she has chosen peace over approval. She does not leave situations bitter or conclusion. The unstoppable wise woman broken, she walks away with grace, power, and self-respect. Most importantly, she knows her worth. She stands by it, no matter what. At the end of the day, a wise woman does not chase, beg, or prove. She does not wait for permission to live fully and freely. Instead, she stands firm in who she is, knowing that the right people, the right opportunities, and the right life will align with her, not because she forced them to, but because she chose herself. And in doing so, she becomes unstoppable, not because she is loud, but because she is unwavering, not because she fights for attention, but because she walks in her power, not because she is unbreakable, but because she has learned how to heal, how to rise, and how to keep moving forward gracefully, powerfully, and unapologetically, because she is a wise woman, and that in itself is enough.